You are listening to Esoteric Discussions with Valentine St. Aubin on Peterborough FM, www.peterborough.fm.
Hello and welcome to Esoteric Discussions with me, your host, Valentine St. Aubin, a show where we go deep down into the rabbit hole. You can catch me every other Wednesday evening from 9 here on Peterborough FM and online. If you want to learn more about me, please visit my website at valentinesaintaubin.co.uk. Right, so it's the 16th of May 2012 and I keep saying, we are racing through this year. And it's a strange year. I just keep saying that, but it really is. It's sort of like the quiet before the storm. That's the best way I can describe it. That's the feeling that this year kind of gives to me. I definitely think we will see some fireworks as we get into the summer months, because we're coming up to a very explosive alignment astrologically with Uranus and Pluto becoming exact in a square. So I'm sure we're going to start to see some fireworks. But I have a very, very funny feeling that we're going to come out of this year feeling slightly jilted, that all the big things that have been placed onto 2012 haven't kicked off. Not to say that they won't. And I definitely think as the next few years unfold, we're going to be seeing a lot of activity happening in our world. Just to update you on a few things, please do join me on my YouTube channel. I have to say I'm really bad at uploading my shows to YouTube. I'm going to try and do some house cleaning over the next couple of weeks and catch up with some of my past radio shows and get them onto my YouTube channel. So if you are listening and if you've sort of caught this show by accident, please do try to visit my my YouTube channel. It's Goffkaz, and I put all my shows on there, and I'm going to try and put some of the things on there too. So I had a great time on the 3rd of May at Edge Media Studios. I was a guest host presenter for the show On the Edge, which was previously hosted by Alex G, who has been a guest on my show in the past, but he's now moved on. So at the moment they're having a variety of guest host presenters, and I was asked by Ian R. Crane, who is one of our great researchers into the alternative community, into all the hidden information that's out there, to be on the show. So I really enjoyed it. And I had Helen Sewell, who she's also been a guest on my show in the past, and she joined me and we had a very interesting conversation about the astrology of 2012, which is more of a blanket term. Basically, we're talking about the years that we're currently in and the next, probably I would say, decade that is ahead of us. I don't want to keep going over ground that I have covered in past shows, but I have spoken about the Pluto in Capricorn, and that's just one of the major big alignments that that's taking place right now, which is causing what we are seeing, this collapse of the economy, world economies in various countries. Now, not all economies are collapsing in the same way. It will depend on the astrology of each country and how their energies factor in with this great shift that's happening. But definitely we are seeing the Western world, who have been dominating for the last few centuries, losing their way. I think that's the best way to say it. So, these are really important times, and I don't know how to keep stressing, but it's very important that you are awake and aware. You're going to see a lot of shifting going on in the next few years, and I'm warning you now, so please do not be surprised when it starts to happen. It's not here yet. What we are seeing is the quiet before the storm. So if you think it's bad now, it is going to get worse. And I know people don't like to hear this. They want to hear the silver lining in the cloud. They want to hear good news. They want to hear happy news. Well, the happy news is eventually we will move on from where we are. Pluto is going to move out of Capricorn in 2024, and it's going to go into Aquarius, and that will bring with it a whole new set of themes and issues to tackle. Until then, we're going to keep seeing the disintegration of our systems, of our political systems, of world governments, of economies. Austerity is going to be with us while we have Pluto in Capricorn, because Capricorn is a very serious planet. See, it's all about energy. It's a very serious planet. So when they talk about austerity measures, that's the energy of Capricorn. So while Pluto is moving through Capricorn, austerity will be on our lips. Now, some of you may have heard the news that the UK economy is back into recession. Kale surprise, we already knew it was in recession. It never went out. But again, this is the parlay that's going on at the moment. They're keeping the general public in the dark as to what is happening. And you need to be very careful here where you get your news and information from, because they're not being upfront and honest. But there was a very good article. There are some good articles out there. You have to keep your eyes open for them. And this one was in the Independent on the 14th of May 2012, and I'm going to try to synthesize this for you. I'm not going to read you the whole article, but there's some very good points in here, and it just sums up where we are with things. So when you're hearing on the news, on BBC News, that everything is fine and, well, we might be in double dip, but we're still growing or what have you, please use your judgment and your intelligence and realize, obviously, there is a bigger picture afoot here. So, it's not as it all appears, okay? Because this will help you to understand what is coming and to then prepare yourself mentally. So the title of this article is "The Recession Deniers Have Gone Strangely Quiet This Month." And I'm going to file this into my Let There Be No Doubt series. I have a little series that I do with my intro. So this is part of the Let There Be No Doubt. So let there be no doubt that the economy is struggling. So the title is "The Recession Deniers Have Gone Strangely Quiet This Month." And this was written by David Blanchflower. So it says, last week, our do-nothing economic policymakers did absolutely nothing once again. The Queen's speech contained exactly zero that could possibly help to return the economy to rude health. Zippo in there to help the more than 1 million unemployed youngsters who are presumably an essential part of David Cameron's heartless efficiency drive. George Osborne is now stultified into inactivity as he puts all his eggs into the already failed austerity basket. And internal feuding from left and right means he has little room to escape his self-imposed economic straitjacket. Far from being a master strategy to shrink the state, the austerity budget now looks to have been a catastrophic strategy that has also slowed the private sector to almost a dead halt. So obviously, austerity cannot give growth. austerity gives austerity. It's common sense, isn't it? Obviously. He goes on to say, on Thursday, the MPC added to the sense of hopelessness by sitting on its collective hands and allowing their asset purchasing program, QE2, to come to an end. There may well have been more than one dissenter, but we won't find out for a couple of weeks. My replacement, David Miles, is the most likely opponent, but may have been joined by others, including Martin Wheel and maybe Adam Posen. The MPC decided to pat, despite the fact that we know from the Office for National Statistics that the UK economy is in a double-dip recession. At the same time, the potential downside risks from the euro area have dramatically increased, as Greece struggles to form a government and Spain has effectively nationalised one of its major banks. As a result of all this turmoil, the pound has strengthened against the euro, which will serve to push down on UK growth and inflation. On the morning of the MPC decision, members of the committee would have known the March industrial production numbers, which fell by 0.3% month on month, leaving output 0.4% lower in Q1 2012 as a whole than in Q4 2012, which confirms that underlying trend remains down. Samuel Toombs at Capital Economics has pointed out that this matches the estimate used in the Office for National Statistics preliminary estimate of Q1 GDP, which means there is still no reason to expect overall GDP growth to be revised up. So, that's pretty straightforward in terms of what's happening. And then he just, in this next section, he just sort of clarifies this a bit more, and he says, as clear from the chart above, and there's a chart that's included with this article, which shows how the major recessions have evolved, we are in the slowest recovery for a century, with no end in sight. There is no recovery period. In output terms, the Great Depression had restored all its lost output in 48 months, whereas under the coalition, not even half has been restored over the same period. So, very grave words, I know it's gloomy, but it's important that we do face the truth, because then we can rebuild. But as we stand at the moment, while we're living in a veil of lies and deceit, we can't bring in the new ideas and new ways of maybe doing things, because it's all being brushed under the carpet. So I will leave that with you. So that article appeared in The Independent on the 14th of May. There are some good journalists out there trying to get their voices out and be heard. They are being covered up by the typical type of mainstream journalists that seem to be everywhere these days. But there are good people out there trying to do work. So please keep your eyes open and use your common sense, because the world that we're moving into right now we're moving into some very, very difficult times, and you're going to have to be very aware and think before you do anything. Okay, so tonight's show is going to be a tribute to the Beastie Boys, as we lost Adam Yauch earlier this month. He died on the 4th of May, and I'm going to behave myself. I'm not going to get into any conspiracy theories, but he died just soon after the Beltane and the May Day celebrations. And there's a whole theory about celebs dying around certain times of the year during the summer solstice or spring solstice or winter solstice, and certain calendrical dates that are known in the esoteric calendar. And it's just interesting that he died around that time period. But I will behave myself. So he died, and it's been quite difficult for many of us who have been fans of the Beastie Boys over the years. I certainly have been a fan of the Beastie Boys. I think the term growing up with them sounds a bit silly because I didn't grow up with them. I was a teen by the time they were out anyway. But I certainly have been a part of the following crowd who over the years have followed them. And when they first came out, they were your typical boisterous boys. They were known for their live gigs with cage female dancers and a bit disrespectful to women and just a bit disrespectful. And I think the record companies liked that. They were trying to market that and dumb the youth down. To their surprise, the Beastie Boys were not dumb and were very consciously aware, and Adam was very much so, who was also known as MCA. So I'm going to be joined in the studio this evening by Pedro Goffe, who is a musician and artist and songwriter, and we're going to be playing a few old Beastie Boy tracks, and Pedro's also going to be performing a couple of his own songs, and we'll be reminiscing about the past. So it's going to be a fun show, a little bit sad, but definitely I want you to sit back and enjoy it, and hopefully you might learn a few things. So I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, I'm going to be joined by Pedro. He is in the studio with me this evening. I'm going to play my first Beastie Boys song. This came out, I can't even remember when it came out. Was it like 87 or so? But I remember when it came out. This is very old Beastie Boys, so I'm going to see now how old you actually are, because I'm old. Well, not that old, but I'm getting there. So sit back and I'll be back shortly. All right, so you're back with me, your host. I'm Valentine St. Aubin, and you are listening to Esoteric Discussions, which comes on every other Wednesday evening from 9 p.m. here on Peterborough FM. And tonight's show is a tribute to the Beastie Boys after the death of Adam Yauch, who is also known as MCA. And my guest with me this evening is artist and musician and songwriter Pedro Goffe. I'm just going to bring him on. Pedro,
hello, good evening to all, and good evening to you, Valentine St. Aubin.
Thank you for being with me this evening. I think we're going to have a good time. Obviously, we both know the music of the Beastie Boys. We're both of the same sort of generation, although you're slightly older than me.
We sure do, yeah.
So
thanks for having me on your show.
No, thank you very much. You were also a guest with me on the 3rd of May when I was on Edge Media hosting the show, and you played, and you did get to speak for a little bit, but you played 2 songs for us, and you're going to play for us again this evening as well, aren't you?
We're going to try to fit 1 or 2 songs, yes.
Yes, in between our tribute to the Beastie Boys. So that the audience is aware of your work, tell us a little bit about yourself. I've introduced you as an artist and musician. Obviously, you're very talented. So tell us a little bit about what you do, what kind of music you create.
Oh, right, okay. It sounds a bit like an interview. So I thought it was on my day off today. So basically, yes, I've been involved in art for a long time. Art is, for some people, obviously, it's something that they do by vocation. Sometimes, often, we don't have the opportunity to go into universities and do all those sort of specializing in certain areas. But it nevertheless is part of what we are. And when we like something, obviously, we try to not lose track of that sort of expression. Of ourselves, and it's important to make a record of what you're doing in terms of your art interests, and maybe catalog your pieces, try to exhibit your pieces, or make some sort of register of sort. So we sort of kept as a frame in time of how you were feeling back then, or how you're feeling now, and maybe overall, even if it's not sort of successful in sort of monetary terms, it might perhaps inspire people to be inspired and take up art themselves, or even just make their lives better by feeling touched by what you've done in terms of your expression by music or by drawings or paintings or that sort of thing. So basically my background was always not 100% involved in the arts. Obviously, life takes different turns, but it was something that as much as I go away from it, it always
because it's in your blood.
Back.
Yeah,
it always brings me back to it. So so I basically have started off basically when I was young with the natural vocation to draw. And of course, one of the first things that I've noticed back then, maybe when I was 13, 14, is that I was always drawing on the back of my on my math tests, for instance.
So you're one of those students, yeah.
Yeah, not very good at maths and that sort of thing. So I used to draw on the back of tests and math tests, and usually would get a lot of attention because I used to portray my maths teachers
in a cartoonish type way.
Absolutely right. And so that would sort of spread around the classes, and I would get a lot of. And then the more they would sort of upset me in some ways, I would actually find other ways of portray them in different places, like the traveling gnome. But instead of a gnome, would be my teacher in Egypt, or my teacher in a football stadium or whatnot, in some funny positions. And then, of course, it kind of just went from there. And after obviously arriving in London in '95, had a chance to do a foundation course, which really sort of put me a little bit more focused on to experience with other mediums and things like that. And I actually am just out of vocation again, and natural interest of trying to build up a little portfolio. I did then come across different ways to register that again in sort of found paper and different types of paper that's not necessarily the paper you get from the shop, but sort of find ways of using recycled paper and pens and things, and just come up with figurative representations of pubs or just buildings around the area where I used to live. Even using a lot of my personal environment to be able to practice, and kind of it really turned out to be a collection of very good London sketches, I call them. And that one day I hope to do a serious exhibition about it, but at the moment it's just temporarily on the blog I've got.
Yeah, because that's some of that artwork is on your website, isn't it? And just so people know, your website is Pedro Music?
PedroGoffeMusic.com.
PedroGoffeMusic.com.
Yeah, it's not really on my website. It's on a spin-off of my website.
Okay.
At the moment, it's not there. It used to be, but I can always put it back. But it's on a blog that at the moment is not on the internet per se. But it might be there.
But eventually you'll repost it. Okay, so and just so that the audience knows, Pedro is from Portugal. So if there's any Portuguese listeners, he's from Portugal. He's from the Lisbon area, just outside of Lisbon, in a small town called Queluz. That's where he comes from. So he's being very modest, but he's a very talented artist, and not only did he do what we might call like fine art type of the art medium, he went on and he studied a bit of architecture, and he worked in the architecture field for many years as well. He ran his own company. So you obviously you've really try to use all of your artistic skills to the best of your ability with the opportunities that have come your way, haven't you?
Yes, I mean,
and still trying to.
One
obviously.
of the things that's really interesting is that when you know how to draw, you know how to draw. It's not a bit like nowadays where because everything's digital.
Yes.
If you don't know a certain type of software, you can't draw. So you might be very good at one software, so you're very good at drawing, but if you go into another software, you're not good at drawing at all. Yeah. So you're going to pick up, it's not just like picking up different types of pens. You have to pick up a whole world and environment of software to be able to to express yourself. And sometimes it's a bit frustrating, that type of digital phenomena of the modern age. Also, in this, it's a shame that in many situations it does come with a price, because these softwares
they're not cheap.
So it kind of sometimes blocks your development. But again, digital design, it's a little bit different from from typical
drawing
classical
and,
art.
classical, yes.
Classical art.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I mean, there's room for everyone, so I have no issues with that at all.
Yeah. So let's talk about your music, because I know that's also a really big part of yourself. And again, you have lots of talent in that area. I know that you have many songs that you've written and composed yourself. I wouldn't even know how many to guess. Hundreds of songs that you might have. Backlog of work. How many songs do you have?
Not hundreds, but close to 200 maybe.
Oh, not hundreds, but 200. And
maybe more.
Yeah, maybe more. Yeah. I mean, because it comes to you very easily. Constructing a song and the lyrical side as well as the melodic side. It comes very easy to you, doesn't it?
Yes, it comes easy. I can say. I suppose you can say that. It's another side of a vocation that I've been doing it for a long time. So composition, I don't necessarily need to, study composition and that sort of thing to do it. I just look for the right chords as I play. Try to find the right sounds, then the right combination of sequences and things, and then of course there's always room for improvement. And of course, if I had an opinion from a classical composer, you probably would have a lot to say about perhaps improving here, improving there. But again, that would take away from perhaps that initial intent, which is actually sometimes, or some artists might consider that the very essence of art is their original intent. Yeah,
it's pure. Without
so if you
fiddling with it too much.
That's right. If you start fiddling it too much, and that's unfortunate with a lot of the music nowadays, that there's a lot of fiddling. Sometimes they spend a lot of time in the studio just to record a few things, and it just gets a bit too fiddly. And in some cases, they even try to compose in a way that sounds like someone else, because it kind of catches a bit of the wind from cross sales, and of course there's nothing worse than actually listening to someone and then kind of, this song reminds me of somebody else's song. So sometimes it's nice to have things as they are, and hopefully get people to like it for what it is.
So sorry, did you want to add anything?
No, I was just going to say that it makes in the process it makes you more original. That's it.
Well, obviously you're sharing the studio with me this evening. We're having a tribute to the Beastie Boys, and I know that you're a great fan of their work, as I am. And Adam Yauch passed away. He was 47, which is very young, obviously. And all of the Beastie Boys are musically gifted like yourself, and they didn't have any formal training either. And they have managed to move through an industry that is and has over the years definitely has changed and become even more and more aggressive towards selling and marketing as the years have gone by. Anything that you would like to say about the Beastie Boys in terms of the way that they arranged their music? I mean, just from a person like yourself who, is also musical and a great composer. What are your thoughts on the music of the Beastie Boys just in general? Yes,
I think one of the things that they do have, which it's unique, but at the same time it's not unique. What's not unique about it is that they resemble, they are a semblance or a sample of many other group of individuals, friends, for instance, from high school.
Yeah, because they've known each other since they were young.
They got together, got a band going, and they went and they stayed together for a long time. And they've made good music, and that's, you can see that across the world, and it's inspirational. It's just the camaraderie between friends, and it's great to see. Of course, there's many bands and friendships that sort of split up along the way, but like other bands that manage to stick together. It's just really, even sometimes through adversities, and like we know so many other bands that have gone through this process, but they've managed to stay together and do their craft, and of course that's really good to see. And of course we then reap the rewards of that, of their commitment.
Yeah. So, and also, what was interesting, I always found with the Beastie Boys was, especially with Adam Yauch, he was Yauch. I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. Yauch. I'll just call him MCA.
MCA.
That's what we knew him by anyway. That MCA. That's what we knew him by. He was definitely very consciously aware. Obviously, he did a lot of work with Tibet, and putting on the Tibetan freedom concerts in the late 90s, and I'm just going to put on a clip in the next minute or so, and we're going to hear him also expressing his ideas. But there's what I'd like to say about what's lacking, and I suppose you might agree with me as well, as you're a musician too, is this lack of musicians having a conscious voice these days, you know, and being a mouthpiece for a generation of people that is definitely being lost. And how do you feel about that,
Yes,
in your own opinion?
I mean, music typically since the 60s and everything always had this social content because of, you know, trying to communicate a message, anti-war message. And then, of course, throughout time, always had that. I mean, we all remember Bob Geldof with the Live Aid, and then Bono from the U2.
Yeah.
Also, with also, for instance, the guy from the Police.
Sting.
Sting with, for instance, Saving the Amazon Forest.
Yeah.
Also, for instance, Sinead O'Connor, in a way that sounds like someone else because he kind of catches a bit of the wind from cross sales, and of course there's nothing worse than actually listening to someone and then kind of, this song reminds me of somebody else's song. Yeah. So sometimes it's nice to have things as they are, and hopefully get people to like it for what it is.
Yeah. So sorry, did you want to add?
No, I was just going to say that it makes in the process it makes you more original.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, you know, obviously you're sharing the studio with me this evening. We're having a tribute to the Beastie Boys, and I know that you're a great fan of their work, as I am. And Adam Yauch passed away. He was 47, which is very young, obviously. And all of the Beastie Boys are musically gifted like yourself. And they didn't have any formal training either. And they have managed to move through an industry that is and has over the years definitely has changed and become even more and more aggressive towards selling and marketing as the years have gone by. You know, anything that you would like to say about the Beastie Boys in terms of the way that they arranged their music? I mean, just from a person like yourself who, you know, is also musical and a great composer. What are your thoughts on the music of the Beastie Boys just in general? Yes,
I think one of the things that they do have, which it's unique, but at the same time it's not unique. What's not unique about it is that they resemble, you know, they are a semblance or a sample of many other group of individuals, friends, for instance, from high school.
Yeah, because they've known each other since they were young.
They got together, got a band going, and they went and they stayed together for a long time. And they've made good music, and that's, you can see that across the world, and it's inspirational. It's just got the camaraderie between friends, and it's great to see. Of course, there's many bands and friendships that sort of split up along the way, but like other bands that manage to stick together, it's just really, even sometimes through adversities, and you know, like we know so many other bands that have gone through this process, but they've managed to stay together and do their craft, and of course that's really good to see. And of course we then reap the rewards of that, of their commitment.
Yeah. So, and also what was interesting, I always found with the Beastie Boys was, especially with Adam Yauch, he was Yauch. I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. Yauch. I'll just call him MCA. That's what we knew him by anyway. That MCA, that's what we knew him by. He was definitely very consciously aware. Obviously, he did a lot of work with Tibet, and putting on the Tibetan freedom concerts in the late 90s. And I'm just going to put on a clip in the next minute or so, and we're going to hear him also expressing his ideas. But there's what I'd like to say about what's lacking, and I suppose you might agree with me as well, as you're a musician too, is this lack of musicians having a conscious voice these days, you know, and being a mouthpiece for a generation of people that is definitely being lost. And how do you feel about that,
yes,
in your own opinion?
I mean, music typically since the 60s and everything always had this social content because of, you know, trying to communicate a message, anti-war message. And then, of course, throughout time, we always had that. We all remember Bob Geldof with the Live Aid, and then Bono from the U2. Yeah. Also with also, for instance, the guy from the Police.
Sting.
Sting with, for instance, Saving the Amazon Forest. Yeah. Also, for instance, Sinead O'Connor with the sort of the gender rights. Yeah. And so that and also religion. Let's not forget that issues with the Pope and everything like that. Yeah. So also pushing for a better world in some way. Not everyone is perfect, but I think at some point in time there was, as things became more commercialized towards the end of the 90s, with the manufacturing projects, bands and things like that.
The boy bands and
also
pushed,
the introduction of the computer age as it came into force, and the easiness to be able to produce things. Then I think it reached a point of saturation where unfortunately, a lot of the audience really start to see this type of attitude of trying to put out a political message as sort of not really on.
It's not beneficial.
Not beneficial. It's a bit of actually something that's really spoiling their entertainment.
Well, it's yes, and it's part of the dumbing down process as well, isn't it?
That's correct. So I think hopefully perhaps we can return to some level where we can go back to having because the thing is, I mean, for instance, even with the Beastie Boys, the track we were just listening to, Brass Monkey, it doesn't really necessarily mean anything. Yeah. Right?
Well, so that was one of the first songs from the first albums,
But the thing is, it doesn't mean that you don't have to, everything has to be serious.
Exactly.
You can have a laugh. But when you are in the public scene, you should take opportunities here and there to perhaps voice a concern. So we know where you stand, And I think that's what's missing today is... everything seems to be everything and nothing at the same time.
Yeah, very well said.
It goes from the political arena where the right imitates the left to obviously to gain more votes, and vice versa. So there's no clear distinction of what it is, and everything is. So maybe with things shifting, and then people actually becoming aware that they were actually being lied to in a number of situations there, and seeing it for themselves. Maybe things will go back to accepting a political message or a social concern.
Well, they'll be ready for it, yes.
As not something that is antagonic, but something that actually is for the benefit of all. Okay.
Well, it's really well said, Pedro, and hopefully the audience will grasp that as well, because so many of the points you just made are just so bang on of where we are right now. So we're going to take a break. We're going to listen now to this little segment. It's about 8 minutes long, and we're going to hear Chuck D introducing the Beastie Boys. This was in the late 90s. I think it was around 98, 99. I think it was 1998 when they won the Vanguard Award. The Beastie Boys didn't win many awards during, they haven't won won many, many awards. They've won a couple of Grammys here and there. But to be honest, many times they were snubbed. And it would be because they weren't playing the game the way they need to be. So we're going to have a listen, and it will give you a bit of a background information about the Beastie Boys as well. And after that, I'm going to play a track, and then we'll be back into the studio, and Pedro will be playing a song for us. Okay, so sit back and have a listen to this, and I'll be back on the mic in about 5 or 10 minutes or so.
Here to present the Video Vanguard Award, one of the founding members of Public Enemy, Chuck D.
What's up? And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What you just seen was a good moment for rap music, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about it, all right? In the early 1980s, the infectious style of rhythm and rhyme caught fever from the boogie-down Bronx to the New York metropolitan area, across the country and to the world. At the tail end of disco and punk as we knew it, were hybrid along with other sounds into the absorbing style of hip-hop. Picture 1983 and the onslaught of rappers, MCs, DJs, and new recording artists. Africa Bambaataa, Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, Treacherous 3, Sugar Hill Gang, and a brand new Run DMC. In those days, hip-hop was truly from the streets, and everybody rapping was black. All of a sudden, these 3 punk rock white kids, there was no politically correct term for them back in the day, transcended their style and crossed it into hip-hop with the shock of Jackie Robinson in reverse. MCA, Mike D, the King of Rock, ventured into a brave new world, a dark continent of this thing called rap music, fighting for their right and your right to party and rhyming across America and the world, accused of illing, stealing, and being wannabes, but eventually gaining respect in the school of hard knocks, and at the same time expanding and giving the music the diversity that it claims today. I'm proof of that. They helped me get put on, and I was on their first tour, License of Ill tour, 1987. Well, it's 15 years later, and the Beastie Boys, in the long run, it proved they made the music grow and music grow, and they've grown as well, putting humanitarian words and actions together to make us all grow as well. I could go on and on to the break of dawn about the Beastie Boys and telling you to visit Paul's Boutique while giving you a license to ill communication and telling you to check your head until you say, hello, nasty. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, straight up real props come from me and the crew, and MTV is pleased to honor, ladies and gentlemen, the Beastie Boys.
What's up? Yo, just real quick, we'd like to definitely thank all our friends and all the people who worked really, thank you. All the people who worked really hard with us on these videos, producers, art directors, all the directors, Spike, Tammy D, Hornblower, anybody we didn't mention, like all our friends who just came together and made like these videos a reality and were able to listen to us and not think we are crazy, but actually make them a reality. Thank you.
Have worked with us over the years. It's kind of a rare opportunity that one gets to speak to this many people at once. So if you guys will forgive me, I just wanted to speak my mind on a couple things. And I think it was a real mistake that the U.S. chose to fire missiles into the Middle East. I think that was a huge mistake. And I think that it's very important that the United States start to look towards nonviolent means of resolving conflicts. Because if we... Hold on, give me 1 second here. Because if those bombings that took place in the Middle East were thought of as a retaliation by the terrorists, and if we thought of what we did as retaliation, certainly we're going to find more retaliation from people in the Middle East, from terrorists specifically, I should say, because most Middle Eastern people are not terrorists. And I think that's another thing that America really needs to think about, is our racism that comes from the United States towards Muslim people and towards Arabic people. And that's something that has to stop. And the United States has to start respecting people from the Middle East in order to find a solution to the problem that's been building up over many years. So I thank everyone for your patience and letting me speak my mind on that.
Okay, so that was a little radio documentary for you with the Beastie Boys when they received their award back in 1998, and that was before 9/11, and MCA was talking about the attitude that America had for the Middle East, and certainly words that weren't taken on board, and we see where we are with the escalating violence and the continuing of the Middle East. So we're running out of time here, so we're going to wrap this show up. We've got Pedro Goffe, who's been in the studio with me this evening, and he's going to play a song for us, and after he plays his song, I'm going to play one of the last Beastie Boy tracks, which is one of his favorites and one of mine too. So I'm going to hand it over to Pedro to play for us. Pedro, what's the name of this song?
No, I forgot the name.
Okay, well, go for it then.
Okay.
show here on Esoteric Discussions. Thank you, Pedro, for being with me this evening.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Tell us your website.
www.pedrogoffmusic.com.
Okay, so that's going to do it, guys. Keep your eyes on the stars.